Everyone loves to watch healthy, happy horses, and they'll be here shortly, I promise. I'm just trying to give a little background information first, so your patience is really appreciated. This video is about trust. Do you trust your horse? Do they trust you? How much? Under what circumstances? It's also about the unintended consequences of impulsiveness, and sadly, the near betrayal and almost broken trust of that impulsiveness. While trust can be a bit subjective, let's consider two basic types of trust, conditional and unconditional. What's the difference? Well, conditional trust relies on varying degrees of punishment or the threat of punishment. In other words, we trust we will not get punished if we obey someone's orders. Most of our present-day horse training relies on conditional trust by using various forms of punishment. Using punishment when out riding, a startled horse is expected to tolerate something frightful and stand still. But it often fails when the scales tip in the horse's mind and they believe that the frightful object or situation is more potentially harmful than the punishment they'll receive for not obeying. When that happens, they logically go into flight mode, with or without a rider. Unconditional trust is the type of trust you feel for someone you would literally trust your life with in any situation. When two horses bond, they share this type of trust, just as they will with us if we form that type of relationship with them. Of course, knowing the horse's primary survival mechanism is flight, absolute unconditional trust is difficult. But let's not feel too superior about the horse's seemingly overreactivity. Try yelling fire in a crowded theater or restaurant and see what happens. So, sharing that type of bonded relationship with our horse ensures the same level of trust it entails. In a worst-case scenario, when out riding using that type of trust, a startled horse may simply bolt in place, waiting for reassurance from the rider, and at best, they will simply ignore the fright object completely. This is extremely advantageous because we cannot possibly habituate our horses to everything in the world that may startle or frighten them. I tried to think of something that would show that same level of trust that I shared with my horses. We'd already been through as many frightening things that I could think of, and they never once showed a lack of trust in me or that they felt they were in any real danger. While they did catch a glimpse of one across the yard once, this is the first time my equine kids have ever seen an umbrella up close. Boss in the foreground did bob his head for a split second when Abel and I rode up, but then immediately went back to his nap. Sundance, behind Boss, watched curiously. Matey, grazing in the background, never paid any attention to it. Of course, trust works both ways. If we don't trust them, why should they trust us? Here, I asked them to please stand in a row for a minute so I could try to show trust both ways. They seemed pretty bored with the whole thing. I can almost hear them mentally rolling their eyes as if to say, "Now what idiotic foolishness did he think of?" The only thing I could think of that they had never been exposed to was a large piece of black plastic flapping around. So I dug around in the storage shed and dragged out a big piece of black plastic. As usual, their trust in me and that I would never allow anything to hurt them was absolute and had nothing to do with any punishment. In fact, the only problem I had was getting them off of it. When the wind is shrieking and howling, Horses can't hear an approaching predator, and logically, they become overly sensitive or spooky. The wind was blowing like crazy that day, so I thought, this would be an ideal time to see how much my equine kids really trusted me. So, I dragged out another piece of black plastic to see what they would do. I was fairly certain they would trust me, even under those conditions, but, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. Abel seemed just plain bored, while Lady and Sundance both were interested. Sundance, our world-renowned resident doctor of disassembly, was determined to tear off a piece for closer examination. But Lady, who suffers from a severe case of princess complex, became offended when it dared to flap at her face and walked off. She didn't run off fearfully. She was just affronted that this noisy flapping thing committed such an undignified act toward royal blood. There, right there. From that point on, I should have known better. If I had paid attention, I'd have curtailed my impulsiveness, that you'll soon see, and prevented an inexcusable breach of trust, a betrayal I committed with one of my kids that I will never forget as long as I live. Her Highness's imperial ego restored, Lady returned to investigate what the boys were up to. I tried to see if I could get us all under the big top at the same time. At first, they were hesitant because of the loud flapping of the plastic on Abel's body. But then they finally decided it was okay to come under with us. At times, it almost seemed like they were more concerned with my welfare than their own. And our resident doctor of disassembly, Sundance? Well, he never gave up begging to more closely examine that noisy flappy thing. His final plea was a kiss and a hug, but naturally I had to postpone his scientific investigation indefinitely. It was then I got one of those impulsive, bright ideas. You know, when a thought pops into your head to do something and you just do it without really thinking about any possible consequences. Horses have a deep-rooted fear of predators attacking from above, so I thought I'd get up higher than they were to see what they would do. As it turned out, that was a very bad idea. In fact, it was a terrible idea. A ladder wouldn't work, so I asked Abel to give me a boost up. You know, as I watched this, it almost seems like Abel and Matey both knew what I was planning. Abel seems to be thinking, oh no, he wouldn't, would he? And Matey seems really concerned about something, trying to get my attention. That was my second mistake. Everything about friendship training is the opposite of horse training. We don't chase them around in a round pen or on a lunge line. That creates a negative relationship. And we don't use gadgets or whips for training. You can't find much friendship or love on the wrong end of a whip. Another difference is that we encourage our horses to express their opinions and feelings at all times. But I was so preoccupied that day with my impulsive, bright idea, I wasn't paying attention to Lady's concerns, and that was my second mistake. I had planned on covering up Abel and I to see how long it would take for the others to come under with us. What I didn't plan on was putting my horse in harm's way. I didn't foresee forcing him to choose between suffocating or hurting me by bucking me off. Thankfully, because of our relationship, he cared about my welfare and chose trying to tell me something was wrong. There it is. Because of the high wind and facing into it, he can't breathe. He's suffocating. Now, in my piddly defense, tish tish, Abel is a practical joker with a very keen sense of humor. So, at the time, I just thought he was fooling around, pulling my leg again. But he wasn't. My gosh, who would do such a thing to their horse? Certainly not someone who supposedly loves them. But I do love my horses. All of them. Nobody, but nobody, loves their horse more than I do. Maybe just as much, but not more. Yet there I was, suffocating my horse. How can this happen? Easy. I had an impulsive thought to do something with my horse, and I didn't think it through first. So, next time you're out riding with your horse and that impulsive idea flashes through your mind, please stop and think it through. Even Boss, one of our elder rescues who'd been watching us while nibbling leaves down by the woods, came up to express his concern about my unintentional blunder. I dreaded finding out, but I had to know. Did Abel understand that I didn't do that on purpose? Or had I ruined the absolute trust we had in each other? I tried desperately to act normal, literally with my heart in my throat, as I mounted up again with the plaster. Two things had prevented an utter disaster. The first was the cameraman wildly gesticulating like a drunken monkey on fire, trying to tell me that Abel was suffocating. The second, and most important, was the type of relationship I share not only with Abel, but with all my horses. I often hear complaints from horse owners that are nothing short of heartbreaking. One is that they don't trust their horse, that they bite or kick or buck or barge over them. But they have complete control over every aspect of their horse's life. They choose where he lives and with who, what he eats and when, the type of training they use. Most importantly, they choose the type of relationship they share with their horse. Their horse can only reflect the choices that their owner has made for them. They cannot change until we change. All bad behavior stems from fear or pain or both, and the complete absence of a trusting, positive relationship. Trapping a horse and chasing them with whips or sticks to force submission as an alpha leader forms a very adversarial, negative relationship. Adding more fear and pain as some form of control only masks the underlying causes of that bad behavior. It cannot possibly transform fear and misunderstanding into the rapport and oneness of an intimate friendship. Friendship training is again the exact opposite. Our teaching and learning area is done in a stress-free, open area where the horse can choose to willingly comply with our simple requests. Forming a positive relationship in a completely freedom-based environment is a truly natural setting. Horses don't trap other horses and chase them. This offers unlimited opportunities to shower our horse with praise and positive reinforcement, which, as everyone knows, has a much longer lasting effect than intimidation and punishment. Oh, I did reassure Lady that nothing like that would ever happen again. Another complaint I often hear is that some horse owners are worried about not being able to control their horse when riding, that they lack confidence. Well, confidence and trust in each other start on the ground long before they ever mount up. A positive, intimate, trusting friendship on the ground is a positive, intimate, trusting friendship when riding. It's as simple as that. So, when you choose what type of relationship to share with your horse, I hope it's friendship. You will never regret it, and neither will your horse.